They thought they could erase her. Caitlin Clark left off the Team USA Olympic roster.
Caitlin Clark not making the Olympic team despite leading all rookies in points and assists.
It wasn't just controversial, it was a catastrophic miscalculation that shook the foundation of women's basketball. Behind the scenes, the disrespect ran deeper than anyone imagined. So petty, so deliberate, it sparked revolt from within. Players like Sophie Cunningham reportedly refused to play along with the league's toxic politics. This isn't just basketball, it's power, ego, and an old guard desperate to cling to control. The real question is, how far will they go to protect their throne? And who has the courage to expose the truth before it's too late? What happens next will shock you and change everything you thought you knew about the game. The jersey number insult that exposed everything. Multiple sources inside the selection process confirmed that before Team USA completely shut Caitlin Clark out, there was an offer on the table, but it wasn't the kind of offer you extend to someone you respect. It was designed to make her refuse. The plan was to give Clark a roster spot, but strip her of number 22 and force her to wear jersey number 12, the benchwarmer special, the number that screams, "You don't matter." And if you understand basketball culture, you know this is the ultimate disrespect. Michael Jordan is 23, Kobe is 24, LeBron is 23, and Caitlin Clark is 22. That number is plastered on thousands of jerseys. It's in record books, it's her identity, and they wanted to rip it away from her. Number 12 in basketball is what you give the last player on the roster, the one filling a seat, and for the committee to offer this to the player who broke viewership records and sold out arenas is psychological warfare dressed as protocol. This wasn't about basketball merit. This was a power move with one message: submit to the hierarchy or be humiliated. The jersey number attack was a calculated attempt to dismantle her brand because Caitlin Clark isn't just a player, she's an economy.
Caitlin Clark, by far, is the best offensive player we have seen in decades, the best get-ahead passer.
The single biggest catalyst for growth the WNBA has ever seen, and number 22 is the symbol of all that power. The selection committee knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted her talent and her ability to sell tickets, but they wanted it on their terms. They wanted her production without her shine. They wanted to use her name to boost ratings while forcing her to sit at the end of the bench wearing a number that broadcasts irrelevance. If she had accepted and showed up wearing number 12, it would have been the ultimate act of submission, a public declaration that she was willing to shrink herself to fit into a system that resents her existence. And it would have sent a message to every young player watching that no matter how dominant you are, you will still bow down to the old guard. And this was never about defensive chemistry or international experience. This was about ego, about control, about a group of people so threatened by someone better that they weaponized a jersey number to try and break her spirit. The timeline reveals just how flimsy the excuses really were, because when the Olympic roster was announced and Caitlin Clark's name was nowhere to be found, the backlash was immediate and volcanic. Fans were furious, media personalities were confused. Even casual observers were asking how you leave off the most exciting player in the sport. The committee scrambled with explanations about experience and the importance of veterans who had been through international competition. They pointed to defensive chemistry and players who understood the system. And on paper, those excuses sound reasonable until you look at the actual statistics and roster composition and watch those excuses crumble into dust. Caitlin Clark was leading the league in assists, putting up points at an elite level.
6 points away.
Shoot over people without them being able to contest.
Creating offensive opportunities that no other player could replicate. And yes, she had turnovers, and her defense needed work. But so did half the players who made the team. There were athletes on that roster who played fewer minutes, had less impact, and brought less versatility than Clark would have provided. If the basketball reasons were legitimate, why were players with objectively weaker cases getting selected? And the answer is uncomfortable but obvious. The decision was personal, it was political, and the jersey number 12 rumor is the smoking gun that exposes the truth. The fact that they allegedly considered including her, but only under the condition that she accept a humiliating demotion, proves they knew she was talented enough to be on the team. They just didn't want her brand to overshadow the veterans. They didn't want the Caitlin Clark show taking over the Olympic stage. They wanted to protect the spotlight for Diana Taurasi, Breanna Stewart, and the other legends who have carried the program for years. Understanding the impulse to honor veterans is one thing, but when you prioritize feelings over winning, when you let ego dictate roster decisions, you're no longer operating as a sports organization. You're operating as a country club, and country clubs don't win championships, meritocracies do. The old guard's fear and the revolt that followed. The culture of the WNBA's veteran leadership, specifically Diana Taurasi, reveals everything you need to know about why this happened. Taurasi is a legend with an untouchable resume.
Well, she is a pioneer, an icon, and one of the greatest to ever play the game. These words describe basketball legend Diana Taurasi.
But her comments about Caitlin Clark before the season started revealed a mentality that aged like milk. She famously said that reality was coming for Clark, that the rookie was about to get a reality check when she faced professional competition, and at the time those comments were interpreted as veteran wisdom, tough love from someone who had been through the grind. But in hindsight, those words read more like a warning shot, a declaration that the old guard was not going to make this easy. From hard fouls to media shade, to the ultimate snub of being left off the Olympic roster, the welcome wagon for Caitlin Clark has been non-existent. And the question becomes, why would veterans who claim to care about growing the game actively work to suppress the one player who is actually growing the game? And the answer is uncomfortable but human. Fear. Fear of irrelevance, fear of being forgotten, fear that the narrative will shift and they will no longer be the main characters. And instead of embracing the changing of the guard, instead of recognizing that their legacy is secure and that Caitlin Clark's success doesn't erase their accomplishments, they chose to fight it. They chose to use their influence within the league infrastructure to maintain control. And the Olympic roster decision was the ultimate expression of that control. The selection committee is made up of former players, coaches, and administrators deeply embedded in the old guard culture. And they view the national team not as a showcase for the best current talent, but as a reward for years of service, a gold watch for a career well spent. And that disconnect between basketball purists and business reality is what caused this disaster. Here's where the story takes a turn nobody saw coming, because while the media was debating whether Clark deserved to be on the team, there was allegedly a revolt happening behind the scenes, and the person at the center of it is Sophie Cunningham. Cunningham is a Phoenix Mercury guard, a grinder who has fought for every ounce of respect she's ever received. She's tough, vocal, never afraid of confrontation, and what makes her involvement so significant is that she represents the opposite end of the spectrum from Caitlin Clark. Cunningham wasn't handed a national platform. She didn't have sold-out arenas chanting her name from day one. She clawed her way up from the bottom, and if anyone should resent Clark's instant stardom, it would be someone like Sophie Cunningham. But according to multiple reports and whispers from league circles, Cunningham was disgusted by the way the selection committee treated Clark and allegedly refused to play along with the political games. The narrative that the media loves to push is that it's Caitlin Clark versus the WNBA. They want you to believe that every veteran in the league hates the rookie and wants to see her fail, but Cunningham's reported stance proves that narrative is garbage. There is a faction of players, a growing faction, who are sick of the gatekeeping, who understand that Caitlin Clark is not a threat to their careers, but rather the tide that lifts all boats. And they recognize that treating the league's biggest asset with such blatant pettiness is jeopardizing the growth of the entire sport. If the rumors are true and Sophie Cunningham either refused promotional obligations or expressed serious concerns about the politics surrounding the Olympic roster, it means the selection committee didn't just alienate fans, they lost the locker room. They created division where there should have been unity, and that is a leadership failure of catastrophic proportions. The power of silence and financial catastrophe. The internet has been burning with outrage on her behalf. Pundits debate the fairness of the snub on every sports show. Rumors swirl about internal revolts and jersey number insults. Yet Caitlin Clark has said almost nothing, and that silence is one of the most powerful weapons she could have chosen. She hasn't complained, hasn't lashed out, hasn't played the victim. She has simply gone back to work, and her work has been absolutely devastating because she's breaking assist records, putting up triple-doubles, proving night after night that she is one of the best players in the world regardless of experience level, and every game she plays is a reminder of what Team USA left behind. This silence drives her critics absolutely insane because they want her to crack. They want her to act entitled so they can justify their treatment of her. They want ammunition to say she's a diva who couldn't handle not making the team, but by taking the high road and letting her game speak for itself, she exposes the committee's decision for what it truly was: petty, political, and driven by fear rather than basketball merit. If she had publicly complained about being offered jersey number 12, if she had gone to the media with her grievances, they would have painted her as immature and ungrateful. But by saying nothing and dominating on the court,
Just see Clark get the layup to go. It's just going to be about staying as warm as you can as long as possible.
she makes the optics impossible for them to spin. Every highlight is a reminder of their mistake. Every sold-out arena is proof of her value. Every broken record is evidence that the decision was indefensible. And the beautiful thing about silence is that it forces other people to fill the void. And what has filled that void is a groundswell of support from fans, media members, and players like Sophie Cunningham, who are tired of watching politics trump performance. The financial side of this decision transforms the story from frustrating to absolutely baffling, because the WNBA is a business with a primary goal to generate revenue, and Caitlin Clark is the most bankable athlete the league has ever produced. She sells out arenas, breaks viewership records, moves merchandise at a rate that makes marketing executives weep with joy. So by any rational business calculation, you want Caitlin Clark on the biggest possible stage, and the Olympics are literally the biggest stage in sports. This was a golden opportunity to showcase the future of women's basketball to a global audience, to convert casual Olympic viewers into lifelong WNBA fans, to demonstrate that the league is vibrant and exciting and worth paying attention to. But instead, the selection committee chose to field a team that looked exactly like the team from 4 years ago. They chose the past over the future. They chose comfort over growth. And the financial consequences have been staggering. Sports economists and media analysts have estimated that excluding Caitlin Clark from the Olympics cost the league, the networks, and the broader ecosystem of women's basketball millions of dollars in potential revenue. Ticket sales were lower than projected, viewership numbers were disappointing, merchandise sales were flat, and the entire tournament was overshadowed by the controversy of who wasn't there, rather than celebrating who was. Every time Team USA struggled or looked sluggish, social media exploded with comments about how Caitlin Clark would have made that pass or hit that shot. The ghost of the player who wasn't on the roster haunted every single game. And that is the ultimate irony, because the committee wanted to avoid the distraction of the Caitlin Clark media circus. But by excluding her, they created a distraction that was 10 times bigger. They wanted the focus to be on the team, but made the entire conversation about the one person who wasn't on the team. It was a strategic failure of epic proportions that happened because decision makers were so focused on managing egos and protecting feelings that they completely lost sight of what was actually good for the sport. The future that cannot be stopped for years. The WNBA operated under a narrative of sisterhood, of unity, of all players supporting each other in the fight for respect and recognition. But the Caitlin Clark situation has exposed cracks in that narrative that can't be ignored anymore. The league is fracturing along generational and ideological lines. There are players who benefit from Clark's popularity and understand that her success is good for everyone. And then there are players who resent her instant stardom and feel like she hasn't earned the adoration she receives. And those competing factions are creating a toxic environment that threatens the long-term health of the league. The jersey number 12 incident is a symptom of a much larger disease, envy, because it's human nature to feel jealousy when someone achieves in 10 minutes what took you 10 years to build. But it's the job of league leadership to manage those egos, to create systems where everyone can succeed without feeling threatened. And the WNBA failed at that task spectacularly. They let the inmates run the asylum. They allowed veterans to dictate roster decisions based on personal feelings rather than objective merit. And the result was a public relations nightmare that damaged the sport's credibility and alienated the very fan base they've been trying to build. And Sophie Cunningham's alleged defiance is significant because it shows that not everyone is willing to go along with the hazing culture. There are players who recognize that you can be competitive without being cruel, that you can want to beat Caitlin Clark on the court without wanting to humiliate her off it. And that distinction is what separates true competitors from insecure bullies. The long-term consequences of the Olympic snub are going to reverberate for years, and we're already seeing the effects play out in real time because the next generation of players is watching how Caitlin Clark was treated, and they're learning lessons that the WNBA probably doesn't want them to learn. They're learning that even if you're the best, you still have to navigate politics. They're learning that performance doesn't always equal opportunity. They're learning that sometimes the old guard will choose to protect their legacy rather than embrace the future. But they're also learning something else. They're learning that fans have power, that public opinion matters, that the business side of sports eventually overrides personal grudges. And they're learning that if you're good enough and popular enough, the system will eventually have to accommodate you, whether the gatekeepers like it or not. We are watching the death of the old WNBA and the painful birth of the new one. The gatekeepers are holding onto the gates with white knuckles, but the force of change is too strong. Caitlin Clark is coming for every record, every milestone, every accolade that the sport has to offer, and there is nothing the old guard can do to stop it. The only question is whether the league will learn from this catastrophic mistake, whether they'll realize that fighting progress is a losing battle, whether they'll understand that the best thing they can do is get out of the way and let the new era flourish, because if they don't, if they continue to let ego and politics dictate decisions, they'll find themselves presiding over a league that peaked and then imploded due to its own internal dysfunction. The jersey number 12 saga isn't over. What was meant to humble Caitlin Clark only fueled her rise, and every record she breaks, every game she dominates, is a reminder of the miscalculation that tried and failed to erase her. Sophie Cunningham and those who stood with her proved that courage can challenge an entrenched system, but the fallout is far from done. So the question is, how long before the old guard fully reckons with the consequences of underestimating a generational talent who refuses to be controlled? And who else will rise in the shadows, ready to rewrite the rules? The story is just beginning.